Welcome, everyone, to the Long John podcast with your host, Joseph Kamperman, coming at you with episode 8 Trades, and More Trades, Mock Draft 2.0,
Yo, yo,
with a
yo.
special guest. It's your boy, Benjamin Kamperman from The Camper Report. Benjamin, thank you for joining me on this show. As many of you guys know, this is my brother. He's been on my show. He was on my show a couple of weeks ago back for Mock Draft 1.0. We're doing a final mock draft for me, especially right before the draft on Thursday. I am really excited to get kicked off. Once again, you can find me on all my socials, Instagram and TikTok at the Long John Podcast, Twitter at the Long John Pod, YouTube at the Long John Podcast, and you can also find my podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcast, released every week on Tuesday. In addition to that, check out my weekly news sports reports, which drop on Sunday on Instagram. Those are a great way to get a look into what the podcast is going to be about that week, while also straying into some new topics. So definitely check that out weekly on Sundays on Instagram. And I'll without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Benjamin Kamperman, sports expert. I'm going to let him introduce himself and give us a shout out and tell us his socials. And how are you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Excited to be here. Excited to kick this thing off. So, for my audience, obviously, that could be watching, okay? I want to let me know how you guys dig this background, because obviously I'm a lot farther away. I'm just trying to find out something, like trying to get something new here and trying to see how you guys like it. So, drop in the comments how you guys kind of like this background, because I'm kind of experimenting right now. Obviously, follow me at the Camper Report on YouTube. And then on Twitter, Camper One Reporter. Just look up Benjamin Kamperman and you'll find me there. Other than that, excited to get this one going. I mean, we got Aaron Rodgers, who just got traded today. And when we were doing the mock draft rundown yesterday, we didn't expect. I mean, you called it. You said, watch Aaron Rodgers be traded tomorrow. And I remember you saying that. But it's like now we kind of now yeah, lots of clarity. And it's definitely going to switch up a little bit of the trades. I don't know what you still have there, but yeah, excited to get this one going.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be fun. So guys, just as a brief rundown sort of for you guys, I'm going to be running the mock draft. Benjamin's going to be running the comments. So definitely fill in the comments with any questions you guys may have. It looks like Grandizer 12 is looking.
Yeah, I can read it.
Unfortunately, yeah, you go ahead, read it off.
So hoped you push the show back an hour and a half. CG Ruthless Niner Fanatic podcast just went live with a little while ago. Also moderating for the Cardinal Rule. All should end in an hour and a half. Hey man, we have to go live when we have to go live. I mean, I'm sorry, man, but we can't please everyone.
Unfortunately not.
Well, okay, this guy Grandizer moderates for so many channels, which is great. I just don't know how you do it all. Like he moderates for like 6 channels, which is crazy.
That's amazing. Well, the way it's going to work is last time, we basically didn't tell each other's picks, and it was really fun. You got to check out that episode.
But it was disorganized.
It was disorganized, to put it lightly. Episode 6, you've really got to check it out. It is totally worth it. You're not going to want to miss episode 6. It's a really fun episode. Benjamin and I talked about 1.0. You can't miss it. You got to check it. But we're going to do a little bit more organized. How it's going to work, the structure of the draft is I'm going to get your your even picks, and Benjamin's going to get your odd picks. I can approach Benjamin about a trade. A lot of these trades we have worked out prior hand, because a lot of these trades in real life, technically, you at least have rumblings of whether you not have a team that's going to want to move up or not. So without further ado, enough of me. We're going to get kicked right off into the mock draft. And as you guys can see on my screen, I'm going to start moderating it. And hopefully you guys are tuning in from somewhere where you can see what we're picking. That always makes a better fan experience. And without further ado, Benjamin Kamperman, general manager of the Carolina Panthers, is on the clock with pick 1. Who's your guy, Benjamin, and why?
So CJ Stroud. And I know that I might get a little bit of hate for this one, because it is like, okay, CJ Stroud's, the cognitive test apparently wasn't that good for him. And he didn't get like the highest score on the cognitive test, which is a test that every NFL quarterback going into the NFL draft takes. You've probably heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's basically the quarterback reacting to, I think it's like a quarterback test or something. It's weird. But anyways, so I know that his stock has kind of been, I don't know how you say this, plummeting before, like obviously it's been plummeting like lately. He was the consensus number 1 pick, but it's been plummeting. And here's my thing still, okay? Penn State, when he played against Penn State, he definitely, I would compare him with Bryce Young. He definitely doesn't have the off-platform throwing accuracy as Bryce Young does. There was a play against Penn State where he rolls out and he throws off platform and it's really inaccurate. But I still think at 6 foot, I think he's like 4 or whatever, you have a lot more room for error than Bryce Young. And I looked up all the quarterbacks that are like under 6 foot that have had success in the NFL. This is the list. It's super short.
Yeah, give me
that have actually been top tier quarterbacks.
Hit it with me, Benjamin. Woo!
Doug Flutie, Russell Wilson, and Sonny Jurgensen. Okay.
Yeah.
So
this is short. That's for sure.
The list is short of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I think there's less room for error. I do think that Bryce Young definitely has the throwing skills.
Yeah.
Maybe a slightly more talent in his arm, but I think CJ Stroud is just bigger, man. And there's not a ton of guys that have come out that have been that good at that height. So,
and you're not wrong. And I think there's a real debate that is there and that has been debated over the last couple of weeks on who will they pick. I would say from an offensive line standpoint, the Carolina Panthers have a very underrated offensive lineman. I could see them going Bryce Young because of that. Yeah. If Bryce Young, the truth is we know this. Both of these teams are where they're at and they're going to pick a quarterback. If they shock the world, it's going to shock. I mean, if they pick someone outside of a quarterback, it's going to shock the world. It could happen, but I highly doubt it. Both of these teams are there. as we were discussing last night, I told Benjamin, the Houston Texans were, a couple bad, good, well, I guess depending on how you look at it, a couple of Lovie Smith calls away from being a number 1 the overall pick, from having the number 1 overall pick. So, without further ado, I'm going to get it kicked off with number 2. There is not much of a
hold on before we go any further. Do you want to quickly discuss the Aaron Rodgers trade? Just spend a few minutes on it.
I was thinking let's save it till pick 13.
Save it till so guys, stay tuned for that.
Well, we can discuss it now if you want.
Well, and real quick, so there's been a lot of rumors, and because we should have started this before we started the picks and I forgot, but I apologize for all the rumors about Trey Lance. Maybe the 49ers trade him to get in the first round. And I just want to quickly say before we move on that rumor is so I do not agree with the 49ers. Let's say the 49ers trade Trey Lance and a package of picks for a late first round pick. Let's say the Vikings, and they trade the 23rd pick. The Vikings trade the 23rd pick in exchange for Trey Lance and a package of 3rd round picks or whatever. You need to know it needs to be a surefire prospect draft where there are a lot of good prospects. Yeah. It's not that type of draft. There are prospects with weaknesses. Every good prospect in the draft has a weakness. No. It's not like the draft where Nick Bosa came out. Nick Bosa didn't have a weakness except his injuries. So you're going to have to be drafting to justify trading Trey Lance for the 23rd pick. You're going to have to be drafting a surefire prospect. There is no prospect in that draft, and that is why I don't think they get it.
Well, and I think it's a really good thing to tack on before we move on to the next pick is, there was a report that surfaced over the weekend where a lot of general managers don't even have 15 players with a first-round draft. And if that's true, it could be a smokescreen. You never know. A lot of smokescreens happen. But if that's true, are we going to see as many trades? We could see more trades, and this is why this is such ironic.
We have 7 trades this draft, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, if you haven't guessed by the title of the mock draft, but could we see more trades because there is less talented players, and so teams are trying to compensate for that? It's interesting. What I will say is for all of you guys, because I do want to touch on what Benjamin said. Aaron Rodgers was traded to the New York Jets. We're going to get into the pick discussion here in a minute. I will say that, yes, please stay with us for pick 13. I want to go into more of a discussion during that pick so we can talk about, what the thought process was, because we really didn't hear anything for the last month or more
Yeah.
about this Rodgers trade. And all of a sudden over the weekend it said, hey, they've engaged in talks. And I saw that report on, I believe it was a Saturday or Sunday. And then I was like, oh, he's going to get traded before the draft. And that's what I said last night. And well, I was right. So moving on to pick number 2. This is a no-brainer one. I'm not going to focus a whole lot on this. I think
Yeah.
there is a minor chance that if I play devil's advocate and if the Panthers were to go Bryce Young, I could see potentially Richardson going ahead of CJ Stroud if the Texans are willing to take on a project. But here's what I told Benjamin as well, what we've talked about. I don't believe with a defensive-minded head coach there is any chance that the Texans pick Richardson. And the reason why is because without a good quarterback to coach relationship, I don't think Richardson is going to thrive in the NFL. And I could be wrong, and I'm willing to eat my words. I think he's a very, very talented from an athletic standpoint. But I think that there's 2 teams that are picking in the top 4 that would benefit from having Richardson. And that's the CJ Stroud, because Frank Reich is a good quarterback. I think he trains up quarterbacks well. He's a good quarterback developer. And you've got Shane Steichen, who I think was very instrumental to the success of Jalen Hurts. So my pick here is Bryce Young. I think this is an obvious pick. If it doesn't, I could see it going a little bit different if this doesn't happen. But I really think surefire, I would bet money on the fact that CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are the first 2 picks off the board. And so, Benjamin, without further ado, who do you have with pick number 3?
Yeah. Real quick, Grandizer, just hoped you would do only a 49ers mock draft. I will maybe be doing one on Wednesday.
Come on, man. You don't like the Eagles? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, you're a Dolphins fan, man. I'm just kidding. He is a Dolphins fan.
Oh, I like Mike McDaniels a lot. So,
yeah.
Anyways, let's get
Jalen Carter so there was a lot of talks that the Cardinals would trade down here, but here's the thing. And I actually did have a discussion on YouTube with a guy who said Jalen Carter's dangerous because the player issues, he not only showed up late to his pro day, but he also had that car freak accident, whatever. My thing is like, I feel like that car accident, yes, it was reckless driving, but I feel like that car accident could have happened to everybody. He's a college kid. They were probably having some fun. And it's just like, you got to look at it realistically here.
Correct.
He's a college kid. You want to have some fun, maybe on a Friday night, whenever it was, I don't know. But it's just like, be a little bit like less hard on the kid.
Yeah.
And maybe he was going through a lot in that time at that pro day. I don't know. And honestly, at the combine, he had to fly back. So he was probably for a week not training at all. And then he had to show up at the pro day and perform. So he's probably pretty unfit as well.
I agree.
I just think that Jalen Carter here is like one of the only surefire prospects, just what he can do inside and outside. And I just think here that if you're the Cardinals and you trade down to like, let's say 6, really you're going to get like the 3rd best defender or maybe even the 4th. Do you really want to do that? I don't think so. So I'm going Jalen Carter.
And I think that's a good move. I will add to this. I agree with you. It's not good what happened. It's not a good situation. No one ever wants to see anyone pass away. It was right after they had won the championship. There was some drinking involved, I believe, especially from the driver's perspective, from the person who they were racing. The cop asked him genuinely late at night, "Were you racing?" I think in the moment he probably had some fear. That led to potentially a unwarranted response to the police officer. We didn't really hear a whole lot about it. And then all of a sudden, as the combine started building, we heard again. And so I think really what it boils down to is teams are going to have to make the decision. Do you pass up on, like what you said, one of the best picks in the draft, or because of potential, like for instance, the Raiders have taken him off the draft board. I think that's not out of the question because they've had problems with history with players getting in and out of trouble with the law. But my question is, do teams take him off of the draft board because of that incident? And is there more to this situation, either for the better or for the worse, that we don't know about? And I think we're going to find that out on draft day because remember, while there's a lot of smoke screens, there's also a lot of stuff kept under wraps. And you just never know what's going to show up night of the draft that could be true or could be fake, that bodes well or does not bode well for Jalen Carter's draft stock. So moving on to pick number 4, you've got the Indianapolis Colts here. 2 quarterbacks already off the draft. They've got to make a decision. They literally have nobody at quarterback. Now,
Yeah.
I love Gardner Minshew, but I can guarantee you right now, Shane Steichen had 2 games with him last year with a very talented Eagles offense to realize that, yes, while Gardner Minshew can win you games as a backup, I don't think he's ready yet to be a starter in the NFL.
I don't know about winning games. I don't know, man.
Well, and so, yeah, and like I said, he
depends
played
who you're playing.
He played really well against the Dallas Cowboys. He actually did, in my opinion, in a way, enough to win them that game.
Yeah.
Then he came out and he played absolutely horrible against the Saints. There was some motivation for the Saints to win there because if the Saints won, then they gave the Eagles a worse draft pick. So it was one of those really, really weird situations where you typically would think if you lose, you give the Eagles a worse draft pick, but by winning, the Saints gave the Eagles a worse draft pick. So it's one of those situations where it was really a mess. But with that being said, I think there's almost no way, unless Shane Steichen trades out of the blue for Lamar Jackson, which someone, threw up as a potential possibility, there is no way that they do not pick a quarterback here. And I am a firm believer, because of the way that Steichen helped Jalen Hurts grow, I am a firm believer that Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida, is the surefire pick here. I don't care what anyone says. They are not picking Will Levis. I think that Will Levis, we're going to get more into depth on that. I'm not going to go into more detail. They're not picking Will Levis because I think that the tangibles and the athletic possibility with Anthony Richardson are too great to pass up. So turning it over to you, Benjamin, as the general manager for the Seattle Seahawks at pick number 5, what are you doing to bolster this Seahawks team?
Tyree Wilson, man. And I know, I have okay, let me get my paper up closer so I can kind of just, without leaning in. Man, I know a lot of people likes Will Anderson, but here's my thing, okay? So Tyree Wilson, let's look at the measurables first. 6'6", 275 pounds, a 35 1/8 inch arm. Both of those categories are 95th percentile in both categories, okay? His arms are freakishly long. He has great bend, like really good bend. And it's just, he has that killer high motor, high speed. Like his speed for his size is incredible. Here's the thing, and this is a knock on a lot of defensive ends this year, and this is the knock on both Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson. They don't have consistent pass rush moves. They don't have consistent good hands to swipe away the offensive tackle. They rely a little too much on speed and power.
Yep.
But that is the concern that we have with Tyree Wilson, which is he needs to be developed a little bit more. We also have a little bit more. We have that concern with Will Anderson a little bit too when you're watching him. And it's just like he has more strength than Anderson. Both guys, obviously. Hold on, let me see here. I mean, the measurables is there for Tyree Wilson, and Will Anderson is only 6'4",
correct,
223, which is in the 23rd percentile.
Okay.
So, and the thing is with like Will Anderson as well, and on the defensive line, Tyree Wilson had a lot less talent on that defensive line. Yeah. Will Anderson had a guy coming out of the draft, and I can quickly look him up. Let me see. He has a let me see here. Byron Young, not from Tennessee, but Byron Young, the defensive tackle coming out this year from Alabama as well. Byron Young's good, and he has power to push past defenders. He has really good pass rush moves, whatever. So Will Anderson, more talent on the defensive line that way. His size is definitely a lot worse than Tyree Wilson, and they both need developed pass rush moves. So that's just if you're going for the high ceiling, it's Tyree Wilson. If you're going for more of the surefire prospect, it's Will Anderson. I would go for the high ceiling because the tangibles are just off the charts.
I can't agree more with you.
Sorry for that long-winded answer.
No, I think that this is why I brought you on the show. You're incredibly knowledgeable on these things, and I think that this is where it gets important. It looks like Tyree Wilson is also a stud at stopping the run. That's going to be huge.
Yeah. Will Anderson gets pushed around a little bit.
Yep.
Yes.
And the Seahawks play in a division with good running backs. You can't deny it. You've got Christian McCaffrey You've got, that's just a start there. Like the NFC has some loaded running backs. I'm not going to go into a list, but the matches there. Cook, Dalvin Cook. You've got
Yes.
Miles Sanders. He's going to face some top tier running backs in the NFC. And my argument would be yes. Do you go best player available, which some teams would have Will Anderson, or do you go with a guy with a higher ceiling? And we've seen it happen many times, and it's Tyree Wilson. So
yeah, and real quick before we move on, the one game that Will Anderson actually played in NFL level right tackle, which was Darnell Wright, which we'll get into
correct.
later.
Yep.
Darnell Wright, he only got one pressure on the quarterback.
Yep.
So Darnell Wright completely destroyed Will Anderson in that game. So
yep. Yeah, and I actually talked about that in my weekly news sports report on Instagram. Check that out. We're going to talk about it later on.
And everyone wants to bring up, the production at Alabama. It's like, if that's your only basis of why you're picking Will Anderson first, I just don't buy it. So,
and I think Will Anderson's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I think that this is where it gets interesting. Moving into pick number 6, is who do the Lions take? Do the Lions take the best player available, which at this point is Will Anderson, to pair alongside Aiden Hutchinson, or do they trade out of this pick? Because there was a report that surfaced early this morning that said that the Chicago Bears are not content with staying at pick 9, and they may trade out of it, whether that's back in the draft or up in the draft. So the question that I have for you, Benjamin, is with holding the pick number 9 with the Chicago Bears, is there interest to trade up with the Detroit Lions, and who are you picking if you do?
So there is interest in that pick. And wait, should we do the trade first and then do the pick? Or
yeah, absolutely.
The Bears are going to trade up from 9 to 6.
Okay,
I don't have hold on. Let me pull up the exact details of the trade.
And I can tell you as well.
Yeah. And honestly, with PFF, it might. Hold on. Okay, so it's loading here. Okay. So, where did you send them?
Yeah, in your text on your phone. So, and I can tell you right now what we had discussed earlier.
I don't see it, but it might. Okay, that's fine.
Here,
that's fine.
I'll forward it somewhere else too.
Did you put it to my old or new phone?
New phone.
Oh shoot. Okay, never mind.
No, that's fine. Nope. I'll copy right
here.
You're
good. You're good. But so anyways, moving up from I can quickly, while you're doing this, say what my pick is going to be. So Bears trade up to pick number 6, Lions trade down to pick number 9. I think the Lions, even though they have a ton of picks in the top 80, they still could really use more picks here. And it's like, I think the player that they're interested in, which we'll get into later, or you'll get into later, I think the player that they're interested in would be a reach if you're drafting this guy here.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to it, we've got Chicago trading down to pick 6. They're going to pick up a pick. So Chicago is giving up 9 for 6. They're going to give up a second round pick this year from Baltimore, and a 4th next year.
Yeah.
For a first and a third. A first round pick from the Detroit Lions this year, pick 6, and a 3rd round pick next year. So in summary, Chicago is sending picks 9 and picks 53 and a pick from round 4 next year for pick 6 and a 3rd round pick the following year, which is 2024. Offering the trade. Trade's being accepted. Benjamin, you are the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Who are you picking with this pick? And give us a brief rundown why.
So I know best player available here would be Will Anderson.
Correct.
And I think in this draft, okay, there's going to be, since there's not a ton of surefire prospects, there's going to be a lot of BPA, which is best player available picked.
And there should be.
But I think the Bears have such a gaping hole here at right tackle. And I know defensive end, they have a gaping hole as well.
Yep.
But I think Paris Johnson, Ohio State, and it's just like Justin Fields had so many injuries last year. You have to go with Paris Johnson Jr. His arm length is 36 and 1/8, 92nd percentile. This guy is ultra athletic. His broad jump is 110, I think it's inches inches, 86th percentile. His bench is 29 reps of 222 or whatever is 82%. So this is the draft. Obviously, you go best player available, but like I said, the Bears desperately need a tackle. So
And that makes sense, and I fully agree with you. I think they could go Will Anderson here, but I will say this: you get the best tackle in the draft. You really don't give up a whole lot. Ultimately, when we could do a breakdown of what they basically netted for the Panthers pick, but they've still got 2 first-round picks next year. They can bolster that defensive lineman. I'll tell you right now, if they can bolster that O-line and Justin Fields can take the leap one, people better beware. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
And now this is where it gets interesting. You're the general manager for the Las Vegas Raiders at pick 7. Who do you pick? Do you go quarterback?
You go BPA. You go BPA. It's Will Anderson. It's Will Anderson. Because it's not even like you brought up, okay, you go Chandler Jones. You brought up, they have Chandler Jones, Max Crosby. Chandler Jones had 2 sacks last year. He's getting old. And at this point, you have depth. If Will Anderson needs to, I mean, we talked about the concerns with him. If Will Anderson needs to sit and kind of learn a little bit and not play as many snaps, then this is the perfect area. And you ideally want a quarterback at this pick. But I just don't. Will Levis to me is, I don't think and Chris Sims, everyone that is connected to these NFL teams have said, this quarterback draft, yet it's good, but it's not valued by a ton of teams. It's just like not a ton of quarterbacks are impressing anyone. And I just think Will Levis, his turnover issues are a big concern. Yeah. And I think the Raiders can win with Jimmy G for a few.
And I will say this:
they can stay afloat. So
if Paris Johnson in a different world was available at pick 7, I could see them potentially going Paris Johnson.
Oh yeah, I had him mocked in every draft.
Maybe slightly too high to go defensive back, so I really like your pick. If they passed up on Will Anderson as arguably what a lot of people think as far as best player available could be the number 1 or between 1 and 3, and you get him at pick 7, that's a steal. So the question that I have for you is, I'm hearing a phone call from the general manager of the
Titans.
Tennessee Titans at pick
another
8.
Trade.
Okay, guys, we're getting phone calls here. Pick 8. Somebody wants to trade into the top 10, and it looks like it's the general manager of the Tennessee Titans. He wants to make a move after trading away A.J. Brown last year, and the guy gets fired, and a new general manager comes in. Benjamin, what's the deal?
So Titans trade with Atlanta. Pick
big one.
You said so. Pick number 1 and also the second pick this year. Pick number 1 and 2 this year. So Titans pick both of their first 2 picks they trade. So number 11, and that would be 41 in exchange for a 5th round pick this year. Next year. Let me see. Yeah, next year in exchange for a 5th round pick next year, and then Tennessee sends back the 8th overall pick and a 3rd round pick this year.
Let me review this trade and see if I'm accepting this.
I just think, okay, so here's the thing, and I'll lay out why I think this will happen, okay? I think here, okay, you're standing at number 11 currently. You have a lot of flexibility if you trade up to 8 because you can jump the Lions, who really like Jackson Smith-Njigba. You can jump the number 10 spot, which is the Eagles, and you could potentially get, I don't know, a guard, which the Eagles, Peter Skoronski, right?
Very high.
So I think they get Peter Skoronski.
So,
he allowed only 6 pressures on 474. So anyways, are you accepting it?
Yeah, and I just wanted to summarize. So just in summary, Atlanta is receiving, I take that back. Tennessee is sending picks 11 and 41 this year and a 5th round pick next year for the Atlanta Falcons, 8th pick and 3rd round pick this year, which is the 75th pick. This is a fair trade. I think Atlanta very well could. Well, hold on a second. Right here. Whoops.
Anyways, well, real quick, back to Peter Skoronski while you're doing that. He allowed 6 pressures in 2022 on 474 pass blocking snaps. Obviously, his arms are a concern. I get it. But you can move him along the offensive line, which is exactly what the Tennessee Titans need. And it's just like they need help at every position on the offensive line. Obviously, strength has been a concern with Peter Skoronski. But if you're, obviously guards, the one concern about him is if he moves to guard, he's going to have to maybe get a little bit more powerful, because that was a concern, was strength in the run game. So,
and once again, I'm trying to get too many shout outs, but once again, definitely check out my news report that I posted on Sunday on Instagram, because I went into a little bit of depth on Skoronski, because Skoronski, that's the biggest thing, is he's built like a guard. So a lot of teams are going to ask him to switch to guard. And you may ask yourself, like, why would you spend such a high pick at pick 8 on a guard? And here's my thing. They lost Taylor Lewan, which is their left tackle last year. He played left tackle this year. They could very well start him off at left tackle and shift him to guard. But I'm telling you right now, having offensive linemen who can play multiple positions on the O-line is really helpful, and the Eagles are a prime reason why it's helpful, because the Eagles have literally 3 or 4 players on their O-line that can literally play multiple positions, and it has helped up so much, because we know how injuries go. It's just a part of the game. It's a physical sport. This is a really good pick by the Titans, and they really didn't have to give up a whole lot to move up. So I am now general manager because Benjamin traded with me. Remember, Chicago traded to pick 6 with the Lions. And at pick 9, I have so many options if I'm the Lions, and I'm loving it, because realistically, there is one player that's been picked since the Titans had pick 6. Since the Titans had pick 6, there is one player that
pick 8. You mean?
Since the Lions had pick 6. And they traded back to pick 9. There's maybe one player, which would be Will Anderson, that the Lions maybe feel like they missed out on. Other than that, they have a slew of players available here. And you could see them go multiple ways. But what I have them picking is Jackson Smith-Njigba. And this may be a little bit of actually a shocker here, because Smith-Njigba the verdict is out on whether or not teams are going to pick him this high. The reason why I have him going this high is this. It was just announced yesterday or Saturday, I can't remember, but it was just announced over the weekend that the NFL was suspending Jameson Williams for betting on a college football game. It was one of 3 Detroit Lions players that were, and this is the worst part. It wasn't that betting on the college football football game was wrong. He bet on it in a NFL facility. So if he had done it from home, he wouldn't have got suspended. But here's the deal. This is where it gets crazy. We've not seen Jameson Williams. Everyone expects this guy to come out and play good football, but he played very few snaps last year. Yeah. And he's coming off of an injury. I don't think he's just going to show up on the scene and start going for an 1,000-yard season. So you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you've got an opportunity where, I'm sorry, after this Aaron Rodgers trade, that division is very open for the Lions division winners. You've got, and we're going to get to this later, but you've got a good running back core. You've got Jared Goff, who I think if you surround him with guys can take. We've seen it. We saw what the Lions with what the Rams did. They surrounded him and they went to the Super Bowl. Whether we like it or not, he didn't play great in the Super Bowl, but they still got to the Super Bowl. So with that being said, once week 6 rolls around, or week 7 rolls around, you got Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jackson Smith-Njigba with that running core, with that good O-line. Like, this team could be putting up 40 points every game. And that's why I'm taking pick 9. I think that they could go defensive interior, but I think their needs right here, which is tight end, defensive interior, and wide receiver, and they could go corner. They address corner in free agency. Tight end, it's too high, in my opinion. And defensive interior, with who is available, is too high.
Real quick, though, Devin Witherspoon is interesting, because this guy is far and away has had the better stats than any other cornerback in this draft. I mean, this guy allowed a 25.3 passer rating when targeted in 2022. Only has allowed 3.3 yards per catch, played over 2,000 snaps. His 40 time was pretty good as well, 4.45, and it's just, he is by far the number 1 corner. So they could go corner here as well.
I agree. And with pick 10, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles on the clock, and as the general manager, I could see them going Devin Witherspoon. But here's the deal, guys: if anybody's been following NFL free agency, the Eagles locked up their top 2 cornerbacks last year. Not last year, this past month and a half. James Bradbury, who had an All-Pro season, and Darius Slay. They are both under contract for the next 3 years. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be traded, but they're both under contract for the next 3 years. The Eagles could go Devin Witherspoon, but I don't see them picking a cornerback this high in the draft, if they have 2 starting lockdown corners. And I don't think you're going to want Devin Witherspoon to play in the slot, and you're not drafting a guy at 10 to solely play in the slot for the first 3 years. Because then if you think about it, he's got maybe 2 years left on his rookie deal before he actually then needs to get paid. So what I actually have is the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. If Jalen Carter were to have slipped, I could see the Eagles moving up in the draft. But because I think that they can get their guy at a later pick, I have them trading with the New England Patriots. Pick number 4. The Patriots are going to be sending them. Let me get my trade details up. The Patriots are going to be sending them a first this year, pick 14, and pick 76 from Carolina for a first-round pick this year and a fourth-round pick. Wait. Sorry. The New England Patriots are sending pick 14, pick 76, and a fourth-round pick next year for pick 1 and pick 5 next year. And I think that this is really likely to be accepted. Basically, the Patriots are essentially giving up a third-round pick that they got from Carolina Panthers. They're giving up a fourth-round pick next year in exchange for a fifth-round pick next year. So essentially just sort of swapping picks in a way. And so really all they're doing is to move up 4 spots in the draft, they're giving up a third-round pick. This is a good trade if I'm the general manager for both teams. The Eagles net another third-round pick.
Yeah. Sorry.
The Eagles need that third-round pick because the Eagles don't have hardly any picks. In fact, they pick up like no picks rounds 4, 5, and 6. So I would not be surprised if later on in the draft they trade some of those third-round picks, like maybe a third-round picks for at least a pick in 5 and 6, just to get some depth players that'll because right now they don't have a whole lot of picks in the draft. Even though a lot of their earlier picks are very high. If I'm the general manager of the New England Patriots, you have an awesome opportunity to get a lot of players. I think it's still too high. I could see Lucas Van Ness going here.
Well, okay. I sorry to cut you off, and I know it's a little rude, but we had beforehand Broderick Jones, but I actually kind of stole your glory.
No, and I was about to say
the thing with Broderick Jones. Okay, and I hadn't watched a ton of film, and then I was staying up really late yesterday. Okay, and I watching his film, and it's just not like he's powerful, and he's a beast in the run game. So, like, for the Patriots style, I could see them loving this dude because they love running the ball. They love doing that outside-inside zone and getting their tackles out in space. And he's great at that. But when it comes to pass blocking, this guy tends to get, like, too lungy. And what I mean by that is he tends to lunge at the defenders against Georgia Tech edge defender Keon White, which I've broke him down before. Fans of the show would know who Keon White is. I mean, he just tended to lunge at Keon White, and he actually lost quite a few times. Here's another draft prospect that he went against. Edge from Missouri, an edge rusher from Missouri, Isaiah McGuire, also tends to lunge at him and got beat several times against Isaiah McGuire from Missouri. And again, his size he's only 3'11". So he's 37% at 3'11". It's just, he doesn't have big hands, which is, he does have big hands actually, which is 10 inches, 5/8, 10 and 5/8 inches, which is pretty good because if the style that Broderick Jones plays, you need to have big hands to grip the defender. And that is one plus that he does have to his game. He's just a very powerful upper body dude. So I see why you could, the Patriots love this pick, and I'm sorry to steal your glory a little bit here, but I just don't like this pick if they pick him. It's a little too high.
Well, and here's the deal, and I agree. And the thing is I think they could also go Darnell Wright here. I'm starting to wonder if Darnell Wright goes ahead of Broderick Jones. So what I'm going to do is if I'm the general manager of the New England Patriots, you could go Will Levis, but we talked about this. I don't think Bill Belichick could justify getting rid of Mac Jones for a guy who may not even ever have a ceiling as high as Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones is an accurate quarterback. He's got his issues, but like, they're not picking a quarterback. They would not have traded up, I think, to pick a quarterback like this. So I'm going to agree with you. I think what they're going to do is they're going to go the third best pass rusher in the draft, not third best defensive player, third best pass rusher in Lucas Van Ness.
I love Lucas Van Ness. Love this dude.
Yeah. And here's the reason why, because I don't think you trade up to pick 10 unless Paris Johnson is available. If Paris Johnson is available and you have an opportunity to get a bona fide tackle, I think this is a possibility. But I think there's too much of a chance that Broderick Jones doesn't live up to the hype. And then you moved up 4 spots to get what? A guy who doesn't live up to the hype? I don't think that's happening. So I'm not going to spend any more time on this. I think it's going to be crazy if you have the guy that played for the Baltimore Ravens. The name is slipping me now. He's the defensive lineman now for the New England Patriots. And he's a sort of stand-up edge rusher. The name is slipping me.
Is it? No, it wasn't Calais Camp. It was
No.
the other dude. Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm actually going to look it up here because I've got to tell you this.
Yeah, real quick to answer a few comments here. Sorry, we haven't. Matthew Judon. Yeah. Pair him next to Matthew Judon. That would be impressive.
Oh, my word.
Oh, real quick. Sorry to cut you off. Please don't let it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to get that out there. I was getting excited. Anyways.
I brought you on the show because you're a wealth of information, and you've raised a good point. This Broderick Jones pick is too high, and if I'm the general manager, that's a really, really great pick. And Matthew Judon and Lucas Van Ness, that could be a duo for the ages. So we're very excited about this. Now I have pick 11. So you just saw me pick. I'm general manager for 3 straight picks. Bud Dupree. Do the New England Patriots have Bud Dupree?
I think they do.
News to me. If that's the case, I have another good pass rusher.
Yeah.
Bud Dupree was picked by the Atlanta Falcons. They just signed him. I made a what's it called? I made a post about that last week. The Atlanta Falcons picked Bud Dupree.
Okay, interesting.
He played for the Titans.
Joey Fisher or bust. Yes, I'm rooting for that dude. So real quick before we move on, he did actually respond to my Twitter that I texted Joey Fisher.
Sweet.
But I kind of never followed up because he's had a thumbs up to my paragraph or whatever that I sent him, and then he never responded. So, anyways,
Joey,
go ahead.
If you're watching this live stream ever, hit up Benjamin Kamperman from the Kamperman Report. But if I'm the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons after trading with the Tennessee Titans, this is a dream scenario. And I'm telling you right now, we've landed some dream scenarios for all these general managers, because if the Falcons literally trade, a couple picks back out from pick 8 to pick 11, and they get who I'm about to pick, which is arguably
Bijan Robinson,
rumored to not make it out of the top 10, and they get him with pick 11, Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas. Benjamin is really, really high on this guy. I also am high on him. This is a guy that if you get with pick 11 and you have an opportunity, look, we know the quarterback situation is dire in Atlanta, but they've got an underrated O-line. They've got Tyler Algier to spell with, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. That's
loaded.
That's a really good O-line. And here's the deal. This is where it gets crazy. You are making a push where if you get the number 1 overall pick next year, which I think the Falcons could very well make a play for. Yeah. If you get the number 1 overall pick next year, look who is going to be your offense.
Yes.
So that's all I'm going to say. And they just made an underrated trade that I will quickly spend 30 seconds on. They traded for Detroit Lions cornerback to pair with AJ Terrell. And the name is slipping me now. But they traded with the defensive back from the Detroit Lions, who the Detroit Lions picked really, really early out of Ohio State. He was a top cornerback coming.
His name. Oh my gosh. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to pull him up right now.
I can't remember who it was. That is a very good point, though.
But Jeff Okudah, Ohio State quarterback out of Ohio State that was picked. He's been injured the past couple of years, but they're building a team. I'm telling you right now, they could be a quarterback away next year from a really good team. So I'm going to get off my soap opera. I am now for a 4th straight pick. I am the general manager of the and I promise, Benjamin, you're going to get a pick here. I'm the general manager of the Houston Texans. Who am I picking? And so here's the deal. If Jackson Smith-Njigba is here at this pick, I think it's a surefire pick that they pair a rookie quarterback with a receiver who's going to help him grow. But he's not here. And they have an opportunity to pick what Benjamin believes, and I am all starting to believe as well, is probably the most athletic receiver in the draft.
Yes.
And the receiver in the draft that has the most amount of upside and, a lot of hype that is continuing to grow. And so if I'm the general manager, I think you've got to do something about this offense. This offense was really bad last year. You could go defensive lineman here. If Lucas Van Ness is here, don't be surprised if they go Lucas Van Ness. But because he's picked by the New England Patriots, I am going Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. He is drawing Tyreek Hill comparisons
Yeah.
from an athletic standpoint.
Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel, I mean,
So real quick, physically, man, this guy is more closer to Deebo Samuel than Tyreek Hill.
yeah,
He
okay,
runs through players.
sure.
He high points the ball. He has hand skills. I mean, this guy had over 1,000 yards. I think he had 15 TDs last year. Man, and you can do everything. You can put him deep. You can set screens to him. He's gonna. I mean, his yards after the catch is just every time he touches the ball, he's at least going for 8-9 yards. I believe his yards after catch averages like 8 or 9 yards, which would put him at the top in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
So I love that pick. And originally we had a trade here, but now that the Packers, we'll get into that later. But now that the Packers have that 13th pick, we don't have it because originally we had the Packers trading up to 12.
Yeah, and so that's a thing. And here's the deal: like the really big, what it boils down to is right now. Yeah, we had the Texans trading to the Packers picks 1 and 3, and we actually had the Packers. And I'm not going to say who they picked. We actually had the Packers picking Zay Flowers here.
Yeah.
I realize that that's a mistake on my end. But the reason why I'm not picking that is because I actually had the Packers picking Lucas Van Ness, and we had talked about this. I had the Texans picking Lucas Van Ness at pick 15, but Lucas Van Ness is gone now, and the Texans have an opportunity. And this is another nugget to throw in there, Benjamin. There's an opportunity right here for the Texans to get Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama, to pair with Bryce Young and Zay Flowers, and all of a sudden, this is a good offense. So I'm not going to go into detail with the second round because we're not talking about the second round. Benjamin, you are the general manager for the Aaron Rodgers trade. I got the details here. I can let you know what he was traded for, or if you've got those notes, just let me know, and we'll go from there.
Benjamin, I've got those notes real quick. So perfect. The Packers agree. So let's see here. A second, so let me see. So the Jets send over a second rounder this year, a first round pick swap this year, which would put the Jets at now pick number 15, as you see, the Packers at pick number 13, and then a conditional first rounder in 2024, a Jets conditional first rounder in 2024. This conditional first rounder is a first rounder if if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps,
which is not very hard
in 2020, which is not going to be very hard. The thing with quick reaction to this trade, because this was the big news of the day. If the Jets do good next year, it's going to be a low first rounder. So I think it's a deal for both teams. It's actually a very good deal because the Packers didn't get an immediate first round pick, which was the assumption, the Jets are going to have to give up a first round pick.
Yeah.
But it could become a first round pick.
Correct.
So it's very interesting here. Yeah. I think they kind of reached a middle ground, which is very interesting.
That is very interesting. And in summary, basically the Packers shipped off Aaron Rodgers, pick number 15, and a 2023 fifth round pick, number 170, for pick number 13, a 2023 second round pick, number 42, a sixth round pick, 207, and then the conditional second. And we saw a conditional second when the Carson Wentz trade, when the Eagles traded with the Colts for Carson Wentz. We saw that conditional second go to a first. It's almost 100% that Aaron Rodgers is playing 65% of the snaps. And like you said, Benjamin, I think they're going to be a good team this year. And so with that being said, this is a win-win. I think this is the only way this happens. I'm happy for Rodgers. I think Rodgers could very well bring the Jets their first playoff win in many years. So, Benjamin, if you're sitting as the general manager for the Packers, who are you picking with pick number 13? And give us a brief description why.
Man, so at first I had Zay Flowers, but you kind of took my guy.
Yeah.
The second dude here I would have is need over. I mean, I've got to go. Man, this is hard. I've got to go Dalton Kincaid.
Okay,
this guy is definitely, I'd say he's definitely, how do you say this? He's more of a receiving tight end than a pass blocking tight end. Doesn't do a whole lot of pass blocking. I like Noah Fant, but if you're Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh runs that 2 tight end system a lot more, and it's just like the weapons there. I just think you have to produce. Sorry, not Aaron Rodgers, not Robert Saleh. Oh my gosh, what am I doing?
You're good.
We're at the Packers. Jordan Love. Sorry guys. Jordan Love needs a guy to throw to, and frankly, they have nobody because they lost Robert Tonyan as well. So, yeah.
No, that's a good pick, and I think. Look, here's the deal. They've got a budding receiver in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Sorry, they've got Romeo Doubs, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and they've got a good running back. There's so many players that they could pick here. I think it really is like you're gonna said gonna end up rolling with it, like I said, it's gonna end up rolling with uh best player available, and I think Dalton Kincaid's a good move. This could very well be a very good target for Jordan Love, helping get him out of difficult situations. So I like that pick, Benjamin. That's a
Yeah,
solid
he's an
pick.
underneath threat. I mean, he's a
Yeah, he
check
really
down
is.
guy.
Like you said, he's not like your prototypical like tight end that's going to block a lot. Like he's also a receiver. And nobody's going to be laughing if Dalton Kincaid becomes the next Travis Kelce for Jordan Love. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that tight end may not be a flashy pick, but no one's arguing that Travis Kelce has been a really big factor at Patrick Mahomes' success, especially early on. So
Well,
now it gets really
and real quick, it's just I don't really see any of the receivers going. I just think there's questions with all of them, and I think you have to take more of a surefire pick with Dalton Kincaid.
And I agree with you. And this is where it gets really interesting. So you've got a couple of options. I'm the general manager here for the Eagles at pick 14. Remember, in summary, I traded out of my pick 10 with the New England Patriots. Now, who that would have wanted Lucas Van Ness, would have wanted Zay Flowers, would have wanted Dalton Kincaid, probably one of those players, and that would be Lucas Van Ness. The Eagles could have picked at 10. But I know this one thing right now. Devin Witherspoon is still available here. Howie's not picking a defensive back. I know Eagles fans probably want Brian Branch here as well. Howie's not picking a defensive back. And I've said this
Brian
before.
Branch is a little bit of a reach, though. I mean, his
I
speed.
agree. And that's where I'm talking. I think because the Eagles won't go defensive back, they're not going to go receiver with the 14th pick. We've already talked about the issues. They could go Osiris Jones. It's still, in my opinion, too high at pick 14. I have them picking the one and only defensive lineman out of Pittsburgh, Kalijah Kancey. And Benjamin, I know you're not as high on him as I am. The reason why I'm picking Kalijah Kancey with here is this. He's drawing a lot of Aaron Donald comparisons. I don't like the whole comparison game. It's a really dangerous game to play. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I know he's smaller than Donald, but I know this. The Eagles like to build in the trenches. They're not going to pick a guard with pick 14. I could see them trading out. They could have picked Bijan Robinson at pick 10. He was available, but I have them trading out. They like to build in the trenches. Because I don't believe an offensive lineman that is a guard is good enough to pick here at 14. I think that Kalijah Kancey is your best player from a defensive lineman standpoint. He's he's the second best interior defensive lineman in the draft, in my opinion, ahead of Brian Boussey. And I think that this is a guy who can play limited snaps with Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. And then next year, you've got a Jordan Davis and Kalijah Kancey duo. That's a scary duo, in my opinion. You've got a smaller guy in Kalijah Kancey who can be a better pass rusher. And then you've got a run stuffer in Jordan Davis. And so I think this is a good pick. And so moving on, I know we're getting, we're almost crossing the hour mark because it has been a loaded.
Well, here's the thing. With the hour mark thing. This is the mock draft, and it's like, I don't know. I in a way, yes, it's a long time for us to be ranting. But here's the thing.
It's 2.0,
here's the thing. It's 2.0, and these prospects are just, it's a whole nother job, the NFL draft.
Yep.
And so you have to do your due diligence, and we're spitting facts. And so we're trying to do our due diligence, trying to get as much as possible description on each of these players. So it's like, it's going to take a while to describe them. Anyways.
So Benjamin, you are the general manager.
Yeah.
With the New York Jets. Personally, I don't see the New York Jets missing too much out on players by moving back 2 spots. Who are you picking and why at pick 15?
Darnell Wright. This guy really never has, in my opinion. Okay, so you could make a assumption that Broderick Jones goes here, but I still think that they believe in their left tackle, which his name is slipping me right now, from Louisville, that it keeps getting injured. But while he's played, he's been flashy. I can't remember that left tackle.
It's Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go with a right tackle, and I think this guy's
shift to left if needed.
Yeah, who could, because he played in 2021. So in 2020, Darnell Wright was a right tackle. 2021, he played left tackle, and then he switched back last year.
And he played a little right guard. This dude's flexible, man. I talked about him in my Long John podcast, Weekly News Sports Report, another shout out. But yeah,
you can do everything with this guy, and he has probably the best mechanics in this draft, and against the best pass rushers like Darnell Wright and BJ Ojulari. He's only allowed, I think, 3 pressures to those 2 guys last season.
One pressure. Sacks, 1 pressure, 87 snaps. That's incredible.
Yeah, crazy. So let's go Darnell Wright here.
Perfect. So we locked in Darnell Wright at pick 15. This is a no-brainer for me. The fact that what ADP ranks Devin Witherspoon as the 8th ranked player, you've got a division with, I believe the Giants are going to prioritize receiver in the draft. You've got a division with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. I can't think of the third receiver now on the Cowboys. But CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Like, can I say more? Do I need to say more? Absolutely not. Devin Witherspoon is the guy locking up here. Devin Witherspoon at pick 16. You're Washington Commanders. This is a really good pick, and you could be a lockdown corner for many, many years. So now it gets interesting. At pick 17, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who are you picking, and tell me why?
Joey Porter Jr. And I know that Christian Gonzalez is the consensus number 2. But here's my really like spiel on Joey Porter Jr. His dad played with the Steelers. The Steelers like to play a press man-to-man style coverage. Joey Porter Jr., this guy has an elite first punch. So basically, when the receiver tries to get off of the line, Joey Porter Jr., he's best playing man-to-man, and he has the speed to play man-to-man as well. I can look up his 40 time. His 10-yard split was a 1.50, a 1.5 second, which is in the 87th percentile. So just really good 40 time. This guy's first punch, so he's really good at press man-to-man. He'll punch the guy, like he'll jab them with his hand right off the bat, and he's really powerful with that too. And that, a lot of times you'll see him just ruin whole plays or take that whole receiver off of the side of the field because his one punch off of the line of scrimmage is amazing. So that's one thing. He also allowed 15 receptions off of, 15 receptions for 143 yards all of last season compared to, I'm looking it up, compared to Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez last season allowed a 39 receptions, 64 targets. So not only does Joey Porter Jr. have more of allow less of a completion rate when targeted, his measurables, he's 6'2" and has, he's 6'2", has 34-inch 34-inch arms, which is 95 percentile. So, and he also played against a higher competition than Christian Gonzalez did.
Yeah.
Which is the Big Ten.
That's
played
a really
in 2021, he played against Chris Olave. He played against Garrett Wilson, some of the top receivers now. And he shut them down. He hardly allowed them any targets any catches. So
he's a good player.
Joey Porter Jr. here at number 17.
I love this pick. Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but so Grandizer, you're trying to do a prospect profile on each of your picks. It stretches the stream out. Rapid fire, no trades with all the content creators I listen to. So I get the feeling of what these teams might do. Okay. Yeah. We'll try to go a little bit more rapid fire. I just know that the reason why I just did a profile on this guy is because this was a huge topic of debate. And this is actually the biggest debate in all of the draft. Who goes first? Joey Porter Jr. or Christian Gonzalez. So I wanted to tell you guys why I like this guy better. We can go more rapid fire now.
Well, and I'm really glad you did. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when I look at mock draft, when I'm listening to mock drafts, I am listening to for like depth on each team who I'm picking. The goal here is, yes, we sat down, we did these trades. So far, I'm liking the way the draft is playing out.
It's way better than last time.
Way better than last time. A little bit more organized. So with pick 18, you've got a couple of options. I picked Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is a really good pick. I like how this pick goes. They could have waited, but there's no way they were getting Zay Flowers at pick 18. So I like locking in pick the wide receiver early on. They could go Christian Gonzalez, but they did address the defensive back position in the free agency period. They're not going a receiver. They probably would have picked Dalton Kincaid if they would
Yeah.
have had if he would have been available. I think it's still too early to pick the tight end out of Notre Dame in Michael Mayer. And so what I am actually locking in at pick 18 is Nolan Smith. And here's the deal.
Okay. Interesting.
He gets to not really sit because he's going to play opposite Aiden Hutchinson, but Aiden Hutchinson's going to get the double teams. And we know how that worked. Nolan Smith is drawing a lot of Hassan Reddick comparisons. And I'll tell you this right now. Hassan Reddick is a very good defensive lineman, but he excelled this year when you've got the Eagles defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave at the time, Jordan Davis. They've got the defensive end that they signed to a 3-year contract. The name is completely slipping me. With Brandon Graham, but then they also got I can't think of the name, the defensive line, but they've got a stacked defensive line. And look what Hassan Reddick did. I think what's going to happen is Nolan Smith is going to come in. That defense is not going to need to play catch up because this offense is going to be so good this year. And the defense is going to be able to hold their own. And so, yep, I'm looking at Nolan Smith at pick 18. And Benjamin, you are the Buccaneers. You're the Buccaneers at pick 19.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing trade.
Hot take.
Whoa.
Trade down. So we actually have 2 trades. This is kind of weird, but here's the thing. This late in the draft, we see every year, like there are a lot of times the first 15 picks, it's what the consensus is. But now it's like you get late in this draft and you really don't know what these teams are going to do. So I'm having the Buccaneers trade down 1 spot with the Seattle Seahawks. I think there's a lot of teams vying for this pick. And I think a lot of teams are kind of, I don't know, they're wanting a guy that is generational. They're wanting, I'm going to go Osiris Torrance with this pick, pick number 19.
And what are you
At
giving
first,
up?
I was like, Christian Gonzalez, Seattle could lock up the secondary really and pick Christian Gonzalez and pair him next to the other guy that they got last year, who is a Pro Bowler this year. But then I kind of changed my mind and I was like, they need a guard. You shore up the offensive line. Your offensive line is probably one of, like, if not the best offensive line right now in the league. If you get Osiris Torrance, this guy's powerful. He's good in the run game. He can really do it all. And what I'm giving up here, let me pull up this chart. It's just a little hard because I never wrote these down. You wrote all of them down here. So the Seahawks are trading the Bucs. So their pick number 19 for pick number 20, and then a 6th, so a 4th this year. The Seahawks a 4th, I believe, this year.
Yep.
And then the Bucs are sending over obviously pick number 20 and a 6th next year.
Yeah. This is going good. Let me pick this again. Force this trade. Sometimes Pro Football Focus likes to be a little bit difficult.
But I could see kind of Christian Gonzalez going at this pick because they just picking best player available here, BPA. But I also think that Osiris Torrance is a generational guard. So
and I think this is a good pick. You're going to see a lot of picks like this. You're going to see a lot of picks like this moving up. And give me 1 second, guys. We're going to have a little bit of a technical problem in the fact that.
No, you're good. Now, I do think here that, like, there's going to be so many teams now vying for Christian Gonzalez who drops. I think Christian Gonzalez is kind of the type of guy that Caleb Farley was a few years ago. Caleb Farley had the talent of a top 10 pick. Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech, but wasn't necessarily viewed highly because he obviously gave up, a higher completion rate. Obviously, you have Christian Gonzalez, 60% completion rate there. And it's just his strength of there are concerns with Christian Gonzalez. Also not good at playing in a zone scheme. So you really, for Christian Gonzalez, you have to specifically kind of, I don't know how you put it. You have to specifically put him in a man-to-man scheme. Otherwise, I don't think he's going to adjust that well. So do you have it worked out now?
Yeah, I do. And so now I hear another trade on the horizon with who, Benjamin?
So the Ravens trade with the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers trade down again. They need picks. I'm sorry, man. They need picks. They have a need at almost every position. The Ravens trade to the Bucks. So the Ravens give the Bucks obviously the 20, I believe it's 4th pick, and a 3rd next year for the Bucks 20th pick this year.
Yeah. I
So
like this trade. This is a good trade, and the reason why is this: like you said, the Bucks desperately need the trade. Um, the Bucks desperately need the picks. They're probably going to end up having to send a package of picks next year
yeah,
for a quarterback if the Baker Mayfield experiment doesn't work out. The Ravens desperately need a receiver because they have to arguably go against some of the best receivers in the NFL, or at least the best tandem in the NFL. In Jamar Chase, of course, we all are very aware. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, stacked offense. You've got obviously Amari Cooper. We don't know what the Cleveland Browns are going to do this year. They've got some guys. The Steelers have their own set of receivers. This is a really, really interesting pick. The Ravens are needing to pick a pick 20. So who are you picking, Benjamin, at pick 20 if you're the Ravens?
So at pick number 20, wait, you had this pick.
Well, no, because technically you had the Buccaneers pick. So
Yeah, but wouldn't I still have the Buccaneers pick at 24?
either way, I think we're in full agreement. Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez. Yeah, you're good. Sorry. Christian Gonzalez. Yep.
This is a no-brainer pick for Christian Gonzalez. And the reason why is because they get a steal getting him at pick 19.
BPA.
Yeah, exactly. BPA. And we are moving on with number 21. Who are you picking, Benjamin, if you are the general manager for the Chargers?
The Chargers here. This is tough, but I'm gonna go. Let me see. Let me pull up. Pick number 21. I had Brian Branch here. They need a corner. Brian Branch draws some concerns because he did run a 4.58, which is really slow.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone has ever expected him to play outside. The Chargers need all sorts of, and I think this is best player available here as well. I do truly believe that he can play in the nickel and he can play safety. They're gonna rotate him around, but either way, they need a lot of
James.
They need a lot of help at. I think just pair him next to Dorian James. They need free safety. They need nickel. I mean, they need really a lot of corner help here. So
that's a huge pick, and I love that pick. That's a great pick walking in. I think that's a really, really wise pick. And they're also, we just know this. The AFC is filled with stacked receivers, and you need defensive back help. Chargers desperately need it. They've got a Asante Samuel Jr. He's an upcoming star, but they need people. And Derwin James, they need people. And the thing is, here's the deal: if Derwin James gets hurt again, he's had a history of real problems. If he gets hurt again, what are they doing? Now, here's the deal: at pick 23, pick 22, you are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You've traded now twice. Who are you picking? And if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and I'm trading, I had an opportunity. I had an opportunity at pick 19. Then I traded to pick 20. Then I traded to pick 22. My thing is this.
Along the way, though, you picked up a 4th round pick and a third. And a third. So great. Yeah, great.
They can go a lot of ways. They need so much help everywhere. They need defensive interior. They could go Brian Brzee here. They could also go, and I'm not going to shock too much, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. They also could go Michael Mayer. They could go O-line. They could go Broderick Jones. I'm telling you right now, if Will Levis is available pick 22, I just can't see them passing him up.
Yeah.
He gets to learn under Baker Mayfield. It could be a fluke, but look, the truth is this. I bet if you looked at the statistics on how many times pick 22 actually pans out and has a great NFL career, there's not going to be pressure off of Will Levis to start day one. And he gets to compete with Baker Mayfield, and I think Baker Mayfield showed us what he can be last year. He gets to sit a year. This is a steal if you're the Buccaneers. They could go an O-line. They could go a tight end. They could go,
But at this point, it's like okay. So we still have Broderick Jones here, right?
No, yeah, that's a thing. I mean, it gets interesting.
Ooh, yeah, because so originally in our mock draft, we had Broderick Jones going number 10.
Correct.
So this worked perfectly. But now we kind of changed things up a little bit. Let's go Do you want to go Will Levis instead?
I'm going to go Will Levis.
Yeah. Let's. I mean, the thing with Will Levis, real quick, is like there's concerns with him, and I don't like him as much as a lot of people do. Like, Actually, you
pick
know what? I don't
22.
know where I'm going with this. You go ahead.
No, but I mean, at pick 22, you can't. I think they could. There's so many players they could go available, and we go back to BPA. If they pass up on Will Levis, he probably, unless the Vikings go quite crazy off script, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it gets to their pick and they pass on him, he's probably not getting drafted in the first round. We've seen that happen before. We saw that last year. There was a slew of quarterbacks that people expected to go in the first round. The only quarterback who got picked in the first round was
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. So I'm not saying that Will Levis is going to be out of the first round. I'm just saying that I think that Bucks pick him as the best player available. And now, Benjamin, you are the Minnesota Vikings, and you're sitting at pick number 23. Who are you going and why?
Yeah.
Because it looks like potentially your pick early on.
Yeah, Nolan Smith got taken from me. I'm gonna go here. Let's go. So let's see. So Miles Murphy, we have here. Before we go any further, though, this is where I think a lot of corners go off the board. This is a deep draft.
Yep.
And they're like from picks 20 to 30, there are like 5 cornerback needy teams.
Yep.
And so this is where corner goes off the board. I don't know if I don't really like Miles Murphy. I actually like Will McDonald a little bit more than Miles Murphy. I think Will McDonald was held a bad hand at Iowa State because Iowa State played a lot of a 3-4 technique, and Will McDonald isn't that style of player. He's more of an outside pass rusher, speed pass rusher, right? Yeah. And so he had to play a lot of power defensive end, which isn't what he is. But I just think this is a little bit of a reach. They need any defensive player. You said it yesterday. Any defensive player here would be fine because they need their defense sucks. So without further ado, I'm gonna go Deonte Banks with this pick.
Love this pick.
Yeah. I like this guy a lot. I mean, I can look up the exact stats. He ran a 4.35 40, and he's over 200. He's about 200 pounds, 6'1", and really good. He can play both press man to man. He's an underrated corner in this draft. So,
and I will say this, and I like this pick right here. If I was the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would have been upset if Deonte Banks.
Yeah.
I probably could have done another trade ahead of you, but I decided not to for Deonte Banks. They've got a lot of needs. I don't think there's a guard or a center right now that's valued because I really think Skoronski and Osiris Torrance are already gone. They're not trading. They could very well trade back. You've got Miles Murphy here. You've got Will McDonald. I think, let's put it this way. The Jags are not in the business for a prospect. Miles Murphy is proven. They could also go with a defensive back. You've got Emmanuel Forbes and Cam Smith. I could see Cam Smith going ahead of Emmanuel Forbes. Haven't watched a lot of film on him, but I think analysts like him ahead of Emmanuel Forbes. I think both of those players are especially Cam Smith is too early to pick here at 24. I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to say that Miles Murphy goes here at 24. I know you like Will McDonald better. I think you get an opportunity to pair Miles Murphy with the best defensive player picked last year. And of course, it's debatable on whether he is the best defensive player, but they picked number 1 overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they were able to snag the lineman out of Georgia State last year.
Yeah.
And the name is slipping me, so I'm looking it up right now. So they were able to pick Travon Walker. You pair him alongside Travon Walker and Miles Murphy, that's a really, really good tandem. I'm not entirely sure if I know fully who is picking ahead of here. I'm picking Miles Murphy with pick 24. So Benjamin, you are sitting as the general manager of the New York Giants at pick 25, and who's your guy?
So this is, I think, a no-brainer. This guy can be a tight end. This guy can really do whatever he can be. I comp him to DeAndre Hopkins. I definitely think his speed is a problem, and winning at the next level is going to be tough. But if he can get a little bit faster, he has the build of a Gerald Everett. He has the kind of the body type of a DeAndre Hopkins. He can go up and get the ball like DeAndre Hopkins. I've got Quentin Johnston here. I know this is a huge need for them, and this is another team where it's like this guy has fallen a little bit, even though he might not be the greatest. Like he's not the most, but no, he's not BPA, but I still think this would be a great
good move.
there.
They need a receiver badly. They've got to try to compete offensively. We saw the lacks. I know they brought back Sterling Shepard and DeAndre Slayton They brought back both of those guys, but they really need that true wide receiver one, especially with Daniel Jones now under contract for the next couple of years. And we don't know this. We don't really know the future of Saquon Barkley. I could see if somehow, in God's name, Bijan Robinson drops here, pick 25, which a lot of people would be trading in the first round to get him. I could see them going running back here, like maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, but not unless for some reason they get clarity in the next 4 days on Saquon Barkley. So I am sitting here at pick number 26 as the Dallas Cowboys general manager. I really think a lot of these players, I think a lot of these players, teams later on in the rounds could really be trading out because they could be trying to accumulate picks. But I think really what it boils down to, we know the really BPA here. And I think Michael Mayer is sitting here. You have an opportunity to strengthen your O-line. You could see them go a guy like Manuel Forbes here. They could also go Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think they go Jahmyr Gibbs because he's too much like Tony Pollard, and they're going to get a bruiser in the later rounds as far as running back goes. I am going right here. I'm going to go a little bit against the grain. I'm not picking Michael Mayer. I'm going Brian Bresee. And here's why.
Wow. Okay.
Because I think Brian Bresee shores up that defensive line and makes it really scary in a division that has a lot of running backs that like to run, like a lot of teams that like to run the ball. You got Saquon Barkley, you got the Eagles, where it seems like any running back they put back there is talented. Brian Bresee is available here when I think he really could go a little higher. So you got two Clemson guys in the last 3 picks. Now that gets really interesting, Benjamin, because you're sitting here as the general manager with 5 picks left to go in the first round, and you're sitting here as a general manager. Broderick Jones has fallen. We had him picked, dude, at pick 10. Broderick Jones has fallen 17 picks as arguably maybe the 3rd best tackle in the draft, maybe second.
Yeah, I would debate that. I think he's like 4th.
But the question is, who are you picking as a general manager?
And I think pass blocking wise, have looked at Anton Harrison, and he is a better pass blocker, Harrison, than Broderick Jones.
So who are you picking? If you're the
for the Bills, they don't need a left tackle though, and so it's like
they need a lineman. That's the problem.
They need a lineman. They need a defensive lineman. Well, this is where I'm gonna say this is where Will McDonald goes off the board.
Whoa. Okay.
It's either Emmanuel Forbes or Will McDonald here. Forbes, the thing with him is he has the speed. I can look up his 50. I think it's actually identical to Deontay Banks, 4.35. The one thing that is a little bit concerning with him is he is only 166 pounds, Emmanuel Forbes. 6'1", but he is a tenacious guy, a tenacious defender that can he's impressive. But Will McDonald here, I said before, his pressure rate was 16.8%, which is one of the top defensive players in the country. His pressure rate, 16.8%. So I love that out of Will McDonald. And I just think that if he would have played, like I said, in a system where he would have been able to play more outside defensive linemen, he would have had more production. I mean, obviously he only had I think it was 4 sacks last year, but it was because they were playing him in a completely wrong position. So let's go Will McDonald here. He's a boomer bust project, but when you're picking this late, you kind of have to do that. So.
No, and I agree. I fully agree with this. This is really almost best player available situation, similar situation. And so here's now the question. I am sitting here at pick number 28.
Yeah.
And I have a few options. I could go Emmanuel Forbes. I could go defensive interior, but now Brian Bresee's off. I don't think there's a defensive tier. Mazi Smith I really like him out of Michigan, but I think it's still you could see a defensive lineman. The real question is at tight end, and I'm sitting here. It looks like 12 hours ago it was reported that Zach Taylor has confirmed that Cody Ford is going to play right tackle for the Bengals. I don't know if this, it looks like it's Anton Harrison, and Broderick Jones are both playing left tackles. Looks like that's what their natural position is.
Yeah.
And so I would argue here they could go Broderick Jones or Anton Harrison. I'm going best player available here, and I'm going Michael Mayer. And here's the deal. I'm a big offensive guy, and I know that we've talked about defensive winning championships.
Yeah.
I just think that you have an you needed to pair him with, I mean, this would make it's not even fair. If you're the Bengals offense and you've got this year, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, potentially Joe Mixon if they get all this hoopla figured out, and
Yeah.
Michael Mayer, I mean, can anyone stop this offense? And here's the thing that a lot of people got to think about. I know Michael Mayer is not a receiver, but they're more than likely losing T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. It's just going to happen. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, why not lock in another receiving option if you were to lose one of those guys in the next 2 years? So, Benjamin, you're
yeah, I agree with
what do
you
you think
there.
about that? So,
I mean, okay, so now if you're the Saints, you kind of he's off the board there. That was the guy that I was going to pick if he slips there.
okay.
Man, I want to say, let's see, what are their needs? Cornerback. Let's go Emmanuel Forbes there. I like him
Ooh,
there. That's kind of
yeah,
a flyer. There's going to be a lot of guys entering the second round that are going to be just like I feel like there's going to be more trades at the very beginning of the second round because
very
there's
well
going to be
be.
some guys falling. So let's go Emmanuel Forbes. I like this guy a lot. He had a very good PFF grade, and obviously PFF isn't everything, but this guy is Emmanuel Forbes is the most opportunistic cornerback in this draft. He actually had the most interceptions out of the group that we've talked about with 6 last year. Passer rating of 44.7 when targeted. So a very good, and then completion rate 53.4, which that completion rate is better than, and he played against higher competition than Christian Gonzalez, Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah,
And he had a lower completion rate allowed when targeted than Christian Gonzalez. He had 43%. Christian Gonzalez had 60%, I think. So Emmanuel Forbes is a sleeper guy, even though he doesn't have the weight, but he's an opportunistic corner, and he played against a high level of competition.
I like this
Georgia,
pick.
Alabama, LSU. So, yeah.
I like this pick a lot. And this is where it gets interesting. These last 2 picks, I really think the Eagles are going to trade. I don't know why I have this feeling, but I think the Eagles somehow are not going to
Yeah.
be picking pick 30. But I'm not going to do another trade because, yes, we've done a lot of trades this round. It's been really fun. I think there's a real chance that because you've got Broderick Jones, Dewan Jones, and Anton Harrison coming out as tackles, I think a left tackle needy team, Dewan Jones seems to be a right tackle, left tackle switch. I think you could see all three. You could see quite a few teams who are needing of a tackle trade in. The Eagles don't need a tackle here. If they hadn't picked Kalijah Cansey, I would have said Mozzie Smith is a really good pick here. But I'm going best player available. It looks like as of the last 3 days, the Eagles are doing their due diligence on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that they're really seriously thinking about a receiver. I said this on the I was a guest host on Out of Pocket Radio with Michael Davis on the Tobacco Sports Radio. I was a guest on there, and one of us said something about, I was saying about the importance of surrounding Jalen Hurts now with his big contract with more offensive weapons. 2 years from now, the Eagles are going to have to make a very big decision. Do they keep AJ Brown or do they keep Devontae Smith?
Yeah.
And that's a really tough decision. And by picking Jordan Addison, receiver out of USC, you pick him ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs, who I believe would typically have picked and you pick him ahead of Jordan, and I think this is a good pick. I think they're probably going to trade out of this 30th pick or use it as a package to trade up in the draft. But I'm picking Jordan Addison out of wide receiver wide receiver out of USC. Benjamin, you've got the last pick in the draft, and you got some big, deep decisions to make. You can opt to do a trade.
Nah, I'm not doing that.
Decide who are you picking as a general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs with the last pick in the draft.
So originally I had Will McDonald going here or a receiver, but receiver I feel like you could get later. It's a deeper draft. Tackle, it's not a deeper draft. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
And all the tackles that are good are going to be gone early second round. Let me just tell you that. After Dewan Jones, there is Blake Freeland. That's about it. And I know that the Chiefs said that the guy that they got from the Jaguars, who's really good, he can transition to left side. But here's the thing. I'm going to go BPA. I'm going to go Broderick Jones because here's the thing. He dropped this far, and it's like I feel like Broderick Jones has the powerful he's powerful enough to go right tackle as well. And so you keep the right tackle that they got from the Jaguars at right tackle, and you maybe put Broderick Jones there. Originally, I
Or
had a
Jawn
receiver.
Jones.
I originally had a receiver or edge rusher because that's what they need.
Yeah.
But it's like, what? How can you not? Okay, you basically got the first choice of the first pick of the second round. How can you not get BPA here and not
Yeah.
let one of these potential star tackles go into the second round? I've got Broderick Jones here.
I think that's a really good move. I don't think that right now it looks like this was a report from March 14th. It looks like the 2023 round pick Lucas Yang is currently a part of the Chiefs' plans at right tackle. Now the truth is
That is true.
now
I
here's
never
the
thought
deal.
about
No,
that.
but here's the deal. That is not you don't rely to protect the best
Yeah,
quarterback.
I've never even
in
heard
right
of that
tackle.
dude
Well,
before.
that me neither. And so here's the deal. This is where I could see happening. A lot of people criticize the Chiefs. It's debatable on whether it turns out to be good or not. But a lot of people criticize the Chiefs on their decision to not sign their star left tackle and go out and sign a guy who plays right tackle to move him to left. Now,
Yeah.
I think there's a real chance that Broderick Jones goes to right tackle, or they pick Jawn Jones here, who plays right and left tackle. But I think either way, your pick of an offensive tackle with the 31st pick is a really, really valuable pick, and you're locking in Broderick Jones, and I like that pick a lot.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
this has been fun.
This
I
has
think
been
this
fun.
draft. Okay, so here's the thing. This draft had bold takes, but I get the bold takes.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
I don't think it was too out there. I think last draft was way too out there, but
So I'm going to give you about a minute to tell me who you think off the cuff won this draft.
okay.
I'll give you
Off the
second.
cuff won this draft. I'd say, man, I want to say I want to say, oh man, this is hard because
Yeah.
ooh.
There's
Okay,
a few teams.
I don't want to. I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but I'd say the Raiders because if Will Anderson does pan out, he dropped.
Yeah.
Raiders
Yeah.
would be an interesting one.
So I've got 3 teams. I think you could really focus on the teams with 2 first-round picks. I think really that's probably going to be the person winning the draft, but you've got the Detroit Lions who basically gained picks, got the guy they probably wanted in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Nolan Smith. If Nolan Smith ends up turning out to be a Son Reddick type player, that's a steal. You could go him. I'm not going to go the Lions. I'm not going to go the Texans, even though I think Zay Flowers and Bryce Young are really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go the Seattle Seahawks, and here's why.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks picked Cyrus Torrance to shore up the O-line. They spent a lot of time this offseason strengthening the defensive line, but they get on top of the guys that they made, Tyree Wilson. So you protect your quarterback that you just signed to a 3-year deal in Geno Smith. You've got 2 really good wide receivers. You've got an up-and-coming, really good running back in Kenneth Walker. You've strengthened your O-line now. You've got a good left tackle and a good right tackle and a good guard. And then you go out this year and you strengthen an area of need in the defensive line by getting the guy from Denver Broncos, and you get Tyree Wilson. Like, this Seahawks team could really push they could be definitely the second best team in their division, and they could push the San Francisco 49ers for a few games this year, depending on things. So that's my take. Seattle Seahawks win this draft. I'm not going to go my own team because I think the Eagles had a really good draft by getting more picks. Picking Elijah Cansey, a guy they probably would have picked at top 10. They got on it looks like there's a
hold on.
They got
on top of the guys.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Pause. Someone's making a joke there. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Sorry, it's 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, my time. I've had a long day. I didn't get that. Good joke. With that being said, realistically, moving forward, I think that the Eagles got who they wanted to get at these picks, but I'm going Seattle Seahawks. So I want to take a moment to say, Benjamin, thank you for joining me.
And real quick, sorry, before Tyree Wilson, if there's anyone who can develop this kid who has a big ceiling, it's the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, they have the best coaches in the league. They've always had success with defensive linemen. That's a hard miss for me.
They've turned out some serious D-line.
Yeah.
Well, we are sitting here an hour and a half.
I think we did pretty good. I mean, we
did. An hour and a half into one of the most interesting mock drafts I've seen from a trades perspective. You did your due diligence, Benjamin, on your players. I want to thank you for coming on and just providing your information, your insight. This has been really, really fun. I'm really excited to see how many of these picks are correct. I'm going to take a screenshot of this mock draft. I'm going to download it.
Yeah, please
And
send it
then
to me.
I'm going to do a brief update on my Sunday Instagram post to show you guys how many of these first round picks were correct. I'm really excited. So Benjamin, first of all, thank you for showing up, for spending the last hour and a half, like I said, on top of my channel. If you guys are still watching to the end, check out Benjamin Camper, the Camper Report on both Twitter, Benjamin Kamperman on Twitter, and the Camper Report on YouTube. Check out my socials, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. I'm on it all. And yeah, follow me on all those at the Long John Podcast, with the exception of Twitter at the Long John Pod. Thank you again for having me. And yeah, until next time, Benjamin, this has been great.
Yeah. Everyone, this is so go follow Joseph, obviously, link in the description. But if you want to follow me, the Camper Report on YouTube, it's really simple with a K. But it's really simple. And then just look up Benjamin Kamperman on Twitter. That's basically where I am at. This has been a lot of fun, guys. This has real quick. Grandizer says, good job, guys. Hope do a solely 49ers and Eagles final mock draft before Thursday. I probably will do a 49ers one. I don't know about the Eagles.
I would love to hop on for a quick rapid fire Eagles mock draft.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it.
Work calls me, so
yeah, I
can't do it. Would love to. Maybe I'll do it in my free time, just as just and maybe post some results from it. But
and real quick, guys, I will be posting this on my Twitter, the recap of this draft, and that's actually a great idea, Joseph. Just do a PFF mock draft and post it on Twitter. Yeah. You'll get response.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
Well, until next time, guys, check out this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow as it will premiere. If you've been part of the lucky few that have joined us tonight, thank you so much. And yeah, until next time, it's your host, Joseph Kamperman from the Long John Podcast, signing off. Cheers.